Hi, everybody. I'm Lara Corey, and this is Morgan Fikes, and we are from Smudge Wellness, and today we're going to talk to you about traveling with mindfulness. And as we enter a new world where we can travel again and we're all preparing trips, Morgan and I thought it would be a good time to examine how you can prepare yourself mentally and spiritually for a vacation that is meaningful and magical and fun. Morgan, you just came from a trip. Why don't you tell us a little about that?
I did. I just came back from Turks and Caicos. I went with
So casual, just Turks and Caicos.
just a little Turks and Caicos. It was actually my first time there. It was so magical. I went with a wellness retreat called By Grace. So I help support by teaching yoga every morning, and then also help with some of the just like transitions and making sure things go smoothly. But we also, it's designed in a really beautiful way that we also get to like deeply participate and show up. So yeah, I'm excited to have this conversation. It had definitely been a while. I have been in my house for the last, what has it been, like 15 months now, something like
15
that.
years, I think. I think it's been 15 years.
That's what it feels like.
That's what it feels like.
Years. I birthed and now raised a teenager because we were just inside that long. But yeah, so it was nice to sort of like put the travel hat back on, peel off some layers. And
Are you before pre-pandemic, were you a nervous traveler or did you enjoy it?
oh no, I loved traveling before the pandemic, and my parents like started us early. We've been traveling since we were kids, whether it was to like family or family vacations. So and like, I actually wish I knew where the picture was, but like we traveled like back when you used to really like have to dress code for travel. Like
Yeah.
there are adorable pictures of me in like a pastel linen pantsuit.
Your fancy travel outfit, which is certainly what people did. I was the opposite. We were like in the back of the station wagon, just visiting relatives. Like that was the extent of our travel. And so I love traveling, but like it actually does cause a lot of anxiety for me. I don't like flying. I get very nervous. And I think I have like high expectations for how it's supposed to be. And all of that has led to this kind of like cognitive dissonance where I know I'm supposed to be having fun, but I kind of get myself all worked up if I don't plan ahead, which was one of the reasons why I thought this would be a good conversation because I don't think I'm alone. I think like a lot of people get super excited about travel, but
for sure.
even more than ever are feeling a little more unsettled about how they do it. So you went on this trip that was kind of geared for mindfulness, but I'm wondering if you did anything in particular to think about how you wanted, like you're setting an intention of sorts, like for this trip.
So yes and no. I would say that I've gotten much better about like being intentional about like, okay, if I'm traveling at this time, I need to, like, I don't really sleep the night before if I'm leaving before like 8 a.m. because I just know like I'll probably oversleep. I just like know how I'm wired. I do so much better if I like, sort of plan that way. So I'm intentional in sort of like knowing what I do well, knowing what I don't do well, and like planning for that. And I'm also really intentional about how I dress for travel because like
setting the tone for what you're going to like for each day, or you're saying for the actual travel?
For the actual travel even, because especially now, like, I don't know, like I'm not actually old, but like the old lady soul in me, I'm like, I want to have something comfortable that if like in between flights or like even, on the walk to the bathroom, I need to like stretch it out a little bit. I need something that I can actually like move around in because we're going to be sitting so much. So like for me, and especially now, like a lot of airports, people sleep on this, but a lot of airports have like a yoga or meditation space that you can actually like go use. And I'll do that sometimes in layovers, but it's so much easier if I'm already sort of like dressed for that.
Mm-hmm.
Gotten very good. Like I love me a good. My new favorite is Athleta has a dope pant that Athleta has a dope pant that oh see I was trying to repeat. Let me turn this off so you can. Athleta has a Athleta has a dope pant that like looks dressier than it is. So I have a pair in all black that I can kind of like dress up a little bit. So it looks like I'm, nicely dressed for travel, but I can still,
You can
get
still
my
do
layers.
yoga mid-flight if you need to.
I
Just
try not
empty
to be
yourself.
that guy. Sometimes I'm tempted. Like, I try not to be the person like literally doing yoga in the airplane aisles, but like,
Sometimes it
you know.
has to be done. So
Right?
for this trip, what was the intention that you wanted to set going into it?
So I had two going into the trip. One was to kind of get some clarity for myself. We've had so much like with ourself time that I think I just needed a moment of like, okay, what are we doing next? Like, what is the plan? What is the rest of 2021? And like getting into a space of like, what do I want to happen versus I think I'd gotten into this space of sort of like life was happening to me because,
Mm-hmm.
the pandemic hit and we all just were kind of like rolling with the punches. But then also to hold space because I knew that we were going to, especially this year, have a lot of folks that just really had a year and really just needed that container, needed someone that could just like hold space for them to like let their hair down and breathe and shed and re-enter the world. I mean, for a lot of folks that we're just getting back to like hugging people,
Yeah, yeah.
and that seems like such a little thing, but when you're going on a year plus, if physical touch is your love language, it's been a tough time.
Yeah. So it sounds like for you, it was like the clarity piece, like enlightenment as to what you wanted after the trip, like what you want life to be with, look like, and then also a bit of a release from all this, I mean, frankly, trauma of the last year plus that we've all been experiencing. Do you bring anything when you travel to kind of manifest that or to help reinforce those intentions, like a journal or any, crystals, for example?
So, like, I laughed when I was unpacking because I actually, at the end, like one of the last days, I got a plate and like put all my crystals to put them out to like recharge in the sun. And
On
the
your vacation, are they crystals that you brought with you?
So some of them, like we had a beautiful crystal that Smudge gave us. And there was another crystal that our host had given us. But most of them were crystals that I had brought. I brought like a plate load.
I always bring crystals, mostly because of the travel anxiety. Like I kind of said it, it's like a whole family thing. We all sit around and like pick our crystals that we're going to bring with us on our travel. And like I like to bring, I even brought them right now. Like I like to have like the ones that are like the travel size that I can put kind of in a little bag or in my purse. And I kind of pick and choose the ones that I think are going to help me. Usually it's something that's like a calming crystal so that I don't worry
Calming.
about the wing of the plane falling off. And then, but I also like want to have, like, I have a Labradorite that I like to keep in the palm of my hand because I like to actually like rub it during travel. And I feel like it also just reminds me of, I mean, it's kind of cheesy, but like of the magic of going on these trips and the curiosity that I want to infuse every day and talking to new people, which is kind of anxiety inducing right now. And just remind myself that this is ultimately really supposed to be fun and
Yeah.
a good time, right? Yeah. So you had your travel
Yeah.
crystals.
The reminder of fun is huge
Yeah.
because I do think especially if like your travel there like doesn't go smooth, it's just you have to be very intentional to like not let that set the tone. Like, okay, we had a bumpy ride to get here, but like I'm still gonna have a great trip. But yeah, I brought the crystals. I always have a journal with me. Um, I bring far too many books.
Right.
Like I actually like pick out my books and then I like try and cut them in half because I'm like, you're not going to read all of these.
They're
But
more security blankets.
right, I'm so convinced that I need all four of these books for a week.
For 3 days or
Right? Like, come on, you really don't. The other thing that I have been sacrificing carry-on space for and have yet to regret is I've started bringing my Theragun, like my massage gun, with me. And like especially like that is part of why I'm able to like not do yoga in the aisles, because it's like if I'm really, getting tight or sore, like I can just pull that out and it's actually not loud. But just the thing that I learned is maybe when TSA asks you, like, don't say Theragun real loud.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Gun in the airport is not a thing that they want to hear.
Well, even crystals, like funny, like anecdote, like when Luigi and I would travel for Smudge to do events, and we would have like literally bags of rocks with us. And we've had lots of conversations with the nice TSA security folks, like explaining what we have, and oh, this is an amethyst, and this one's for peace and calm. So you have to be for a word to the wise. If you're going to travel with your crystals, be prepared to explain them a little bit. But it's always very positive. I'm amazed at how many good conversations we've had with people explaining like.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like it ends up being a nice conversation starter. We definitely had a good laugh together. So yeah, and I think that I will give definite credit to TSA for this trip because I think they like knew we were all a little rusty. It's like, they got to remind us, you got to take your shoes off. You got to do this. Like, no, you got to go back. So like, I will say they were so just gentle with us because they could have easily been like, guys, this is not rocket. Like, read the sign, do the thing.
Used to do this all the time.
You've done this before. And like me and the lady behind me were laughing because it was just like, yeah, it's like I've never traveled before, like a year and a half, and I've just suddenly forgot everything I was supposed to be doing. But yeah, it's definitely like riding a bike, you start to remember.
Yeah. But it sounds like I think for both of us, like the way, we're both obviously people that care a lot about having this spiritual wellness practice, and we do it at home on a very regular basis. And I think like just with anything with travel, like people will like forget that routine and they kind of leave it behind. And then they're like more frazzled or out of sorts when really there are a lot of pieces of your spiritual wellness practice you can kind of bring with you and actually can enhance your travel. So like setting those intentions, bringing a journal, bringing along some of the crystals, you doing your yoga practice every day. For me, it's kind of more just like that morning check-in that I like to do at home that I remind myself to do when I'm traveling. I've never done this, but I'm like thinking it would be really cool also to bring extra little travel crystals to give to people that you meet on your trip. Wouldn't that be fun? I'm going to Mexico next week. I'm going to Mexico next week, and then maybe I'll try that out and report back on the reaction to.
I think it would be fun, like sort of like a crystal acts of kindness moment.
Yes. But I think that's the piece that I'm missing the most is just like that interaction with strangers when you travel and getting to hear people of different backgrounds. Were you able to do that on your trip?
A little bit, because of how Turks and Caicos is like set up right now. You have to submit a negative COVID test like prior to arrival, and then because we were a group of people coming from different spaces, we also had everyone do a rapid test right when they arrived. So like once everyone was cleared with that, we were all sort of like able to let our hair down a little bit. So there was a mix of people who came that we didn't know each other beforehand, but then also we went boating one day, which was really awesome. And there were these, the captain and these two locals that were like running the boat. And so we were able, like they made us some rum punch and we were able to like chat. And one of the guys picked out all the music for the day. So we were able to really like get to hear his music and more of his culture. And like by the end of the day, we were all dancing and like
We're all best friends because rum punch is an important part of a spiritual wellness practice. So we had talked a little bit about like making sure that you're very mindful about remembering that ultimately travel is about fun. Like that's often the main reason that we're doing it. What do you do to make sure, and you can speak from this experience that you just had, what do you do to make sure that your vacations are joyful and happy experiences?
I think a big part of joy for me is like also culture. So I really enjoy going to places and like really getting to have experiences with the people that actually live there and supporting like actual people of the island, you know? And so like our first day there, we actually had a woman come out who had her own massage business and gave everyone massages. So it was really dope to not only like, of course, yay, massages are fun, you know, I get joy in taking care of my body, but also just to know that we were also supporting this local Black woman owned business. You know, this was apparently, since there was a group of us, this was like one of the largest invoices she'd ever done. So, you know, that was really exciting for her. And like, you know, we were all really excited. I mean, she was phenomenal. But, you know, also being able to say like, hey, like, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to hop on and do a review on your website and let people know how great this experience was. And as I mentioned, you know, being able to go out on the boat, like the captain, actually, interestingly, the captain of the boat didn't know how to swim.
Oh my.
Like, right? Which I thought was so interesting. But he was like, it's just life. It just, swimming in me just never seemed to take. So like, I get to be out on the water though, and I love it. And like, when I want to see fish, I just like throw out some fish food and they come to the surface and say hi to me. So I'm like, you are living your best life and you didn't want to, you were like, swimming in me ain't it. So I figured out a way to do it anyway. So, you know, for me, a big part of the joy is like, I'm an extrovert. I'm a people person. I love meeting dope, interesting people. So being able to, like, because to your point, I don't think this is probably the first time I've met a new person in months.
So long. Yeah. I find that too. I mean, just connecting with other people is such a big part of the joy of vacation. And I would say for me, some of the most joyful moments that I've had on vacations are when I get out of my comfort zone too. And I think that's important to know either. Like we're talking about practice, a spiritual wellness practice and how you integrate that when you travel, which I think for some, it might sound like, oh, what you're saying is to like stick within your routine. But I think it's like you use that spiritual wellness practice so that you feel in your comfort zone. So then you can like step out of it more confidently and try new experiences. And like, it's in those moments of like trying new things that often bring you the greatest joy. Go on the zip line, go on the, whatever the highest point is.
An iguana island. And one of the ladies, what was that?
You did the iguana island?
Yeah, we went to this iguana island and it was funny because maybe about halfway through, one of the ladies was like, I realized that I am not an iguana fan. Like they move way too fast for me. And we're like, okay, but you're still out here. You're still like navigating. We're figuring it out. But she was like, yeah, this is definitely an unintentional face your fear moment for me. Like,
yes.
So yeah, just being able to your point, just like step out of your box sometimes because I'm much larger than you, so I'm not terrified of you, but I'm also like, you move real fast. Like I don't love it. But once we walked through like the Iguana Island, on the other side, I believe it was called Moon Bay, was this gorgeous bay that had been like, I believe it was made from the hurricane in like 2010.
Oh, wow.
So it's just this like beautiful carved out sort of beach that had just happened. And if we had it, kind of faced these iguanas.
If you hadn't faced the iguanas, you wouldn't have found that little magical moment.
Yeah,
I love that metaphor for face your iguana, I think is our takeaway message from here.
Exactly. Theme of the day, face your iguanas.
So what is a dream vacation for you when you're looking through the lens of like wellness and joy and happiness? What it can be something that you want to do or what you are, if you've already had it.
I I sort of had it and want to redo it. So short version, I went on like a couples trip to Bali many years ago. And it was one of those trips where I was like, I'm either gonna totally love you or I'm gonna like realize this isn't it by the end. And by like day 3, I was like, this is not.
Oh no, and you're literally like trapped on.
Yeah. So actually, like they were, they offered morning yoga, and he was like not a morning person. And I actually really wasn't a morning person at the time, but it was like my out. So I started going to these morning yoga sessions, and it was the first time that I'd really like done yoga outside in like this, like we're on a beautiful beach in Bali, saluting the sun. I'm like, oh, I get it now. Like I get what we're saluting. Like I understand. It just like spoke to me in such a different way. And so, yeah, I really, really want to go back to Bali and just like do it in a me way, in a more fun way, and really like go back to the beach and just like have a different experience. Because it was definitely sort of this like beautiful awakening, but also like this relationship ending trip all rolled in one.
So it was a revelation and clarity. It's that of how you wanted
I
to
really got some clarity.
So a yoga vacation for you. For me, like when I think about like my favorite dream vacations, it really like wellness is such a big part of it, but it's definitely like I don't tend to do trips that are defined by that. Like I tend to like go to cities, or even if it's at a beach or whatever vacation it is, it's like I want to bring the spiritual wellness like to me and integrate it like with me, I should say. I bring it with me so that I can then make the vacation itself meaningful, even if it's like me being in a city or a place that doesn't exactly like scream spiritual wellness or self-care or any of those things. I try to like take the pieces of my spiritual wellness practice so that it can feel that way and I can get something out of it. Do you have a favorite crystal that you like to bring with you to travel?
Ooh, that is a good question. I think it's funny that you had the labradorite, I can't say that word, labradorite.
Labradorite.
Like missing a syllable. Labradorite. There we go. Because I did take that one with me on this last trip, and I took my amethyst with me.
Yeah, I think that, and for people that are listening, like the amethyst is peace and calm and abundance, it's a great travel crystal for that reason.
Yeah, so yeah, she came with me. I was like, you seem like you want to go on a trip. And then I do really like that. I think my palm stone though might be that the selenite, like the sort of
The
black
selenite palm
stone.
stone, which is like protective. Yeah, that's a good one too. And energizing, which is, always an energy and energizing is an energy that you want, which is kind of redundant, but is something that can be a really powerful thing to bring with you when you're traveling, especially if you're going to have like a frenetic pace to your trip. I will add, I always bring red jasper too, because that's kind of very calming stone. And especially when everything around you is maybe not as calming, like the red jasper is a really good stone to bring with you. And then since you're such a yoga expert, do you have a favorite yoga pose that you do when you're traveling to kind of inject some mindfulness into your trip?
That's a great question. I mean, I tend to try to like keep a sun salutation in my routine, so that I'm like sort of staying grounded and also energizing. I think the part of the reason that I fell in love with yoga, to your point of like bringing your practice with you, was yoga was the thing that I knew I could do anywhere. I was
Mhm.
like, if I'm in a city, if I'm on the beach, if I'm in nature or not, I can take my practice. Even if I'm in like a very small hotel room, you can kind of find a narrow space to make it work. So yeah, that's part of why I love having a yoga practice so much, is because it is sort of my
It's
way of
portable, it's on the go. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
Well, I would say that like what would we our overall our takeaway tips for injecting mindfulness into our trips would be set an intention, like actually spend some time setting intentions. What do you want to get out of this trip? And then
Yeah.
bring some tools that will help manifest that. And that might be movement for Morgan, it's yoga. For me, it's usually something more rigorous, like more cardio. But for me, that's my own kind of mindfulness and therapy.
Sure.
And bring the tools for us, like crystals are actually really good tools that will remind you of those intentions that you want to bring along on your trip, and maybe push yourself out of your comfort zone so that you can really get to that joy.
Yeah.
And I think
And it,
that another important message is like you don't have to go on a spa retreat for it to resonate with spiritual wellness. Like you can really bring along pieces of all of your spiritual wellness practice and make any trip more mindful and fun. What's your next trip?
yeah. Oh, I think I'm actually going to go to LA for a little bit. My sister's out there. I have a couple of friends I'm overdue to see. So I think that's probably going to be my next trip. And if I do that, I'm going to have to figure out how I can, make
Come
it
up and see us.
and come up and see you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
headed to Mexico with my best friend from childhood, and it just reminds me like that this is probably going to be the year of reconnection of travel. Right?
Yeah, I definitely think we're all going to be a lot more intentional about where are we going and who are we going with, and getting back into our groove. Another fun tip for our nervous travelers that I sometimes practice is visualizing. If you're someone who's like sort of nervous about taking a trip, sometimes just visualizing like, I'm going to wake up and it's going to be really smooth and everything's going to be packed and I'm going to just flow out the door and TSA is going to be really easy, and just sort of like imagine that it's all going to be smooth and
Yeah,
see how that goes.
yeah, it is a very powerful that and breathing. I would say always return to the breath.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this was such a good conversation. I'm inspired by your trip, and I will bring a lot of your tips into my trip next week. And I hope everybody watching can get excited and feel a lot of happiness about what's on the horizon for all of us. So,
Yes, I can't wait to hear all about your fabulous time in Mexico.
thank you. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for joining us. See you again soon.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us today for this awesome conversation on traveling and intention. If you want more dope content from Smudge Wellness on crystals and all things wellness, make sure you like and subscribe.